Stop and dine and
Country 550 and 92.9 WAME and W225BD Statesville.
Welcome to Racing Roots with Hamm. Live every Monday evening, we have a new guest
from the racing world with their stories, their paths,
their racing roots.
Our host, David Hamm.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to Racing Roots with Hamm, right here on 550 AM, 92.9 FM. DHammiam on YouTube, and we're also streaming live on Facebook, 4 Facebook pages, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, and Twitter.
We're everywhere.
We are everywhere. Thank you very much.
We have invaded everything.
Yeah. And if you don't recognize that voice, that is my lovely wife, Tracy.
The lovely wife.
I like to say it that way. Mm-hmm. No, I have to say it that way or she'll beat me with a broomstick later on this evening.
Right. You believe that, right?
Dargan knows about that. He's told me stories.
Yeah, I saw that happen one time.
Just kidding.
Yeah, he's not kidding you.
Hey, it happens, but that's okay because we're all family. Keep it in the family.
Happens to the best of us.
Okay, and we also have Mr. Bryson over here to my right. Now let me get you. Yeah. Sorry, go for it.
No, you're good. I was just going to say it was good to be here and looking forward to the show. Always fun. This, one of the best parts of the week, if not the best part of the week. So, yeah.
Same for me too.
Absolutely.
Always good to see you. It's a little confusing because you're all the way over here, and that is mic number 4.
Yes.
Because Tracy's on mic number 3, which is totally throwing me off.
Yeah, that's my bad.
No, it's not your bad.
Kind of moved from my regular position to kind of get over here and got 3 monitors going, which is all fine and dandy.
You got him all.
So we're all hooked up on everything. So
I'm trying to get him like me because I got 2 computers and 2 cell phones. And I'm trying to stay away from my cell phone.
I've got my own little studio over here, so it's okay. You talked about we're on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, and LinkedIn, and Facebook, and all of this other stuff. So this is how we're doing that right
That's
here.
right.
So or most of it. So so it's fun.
Bryson's controlling that part of it. I'm controlling the YouTube right here, and that's where I have to mess around with the camera angles and stuff like that. But we got Mr. Dargan Watts in with us this evening. Good to see you there, Dargan. I meant to have the clapping on the computer, but I didn't prepare that.
Oh, no audience clapping. Yeah. Oh, my God.
Studio audience.
Yeah, you didn't have any piped in stuff?
Yeah. No, here, let me find it quick.
He forgot.
It's on here. It's just about ready.
Try getting her over here. She can clap a little. She can say a word.
There we go. You couldn't hear that, but I just did the applause for you.
Yeah. Good deal.
Yeah.
The whistles, too.
So your credentials include, let's see, historian is what I like to call, because you pretty much might as well say you're a historian. But you're also photographer. I'm counting the five different things here. Historian, photographer. What else?
Retired.
Yes, retired. You said you like to be known as.
The best one of all is retired. I do nothing.
Promoter, track promoter.
Yeah, track promoter.
You're a writer.
We done a little announcing for 20 years or so.
Yeah.
And
which track was that? Or many tracks?
Well, from Virginia to Texas.
Okay.
And one of the most enjoyable places that I've ever announced, and really it was by chance that I got there. Jane and I had the opportunity to have an advancement with our company, and they said if you want to go up the ladder with the company, you're going to have to move down the country. And we had no idea, because the rumor had been mentioned that we would be transferred to New York City.
New York City.
I had worked up there 12 weekends and 12 weeks in about a 4-month span, and they thought that I could do a good job with all of the Yankees, and they called Jane and myself to Cleveland and sat us down and said, we just had an opening in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we'd never been to Baton Rouge, but I had to fly out of town quite regularly, and Jane and our son Dargan Jr. had gone back up to South Carolina, and every time I flew out, I saw this dirt track, and they were out of town. I said, well, I came in on Thursday afternoon, and I said, I think I'll ride out there and just see what's going on. And Carroll Edgens, who owned the racetrack, had built it as a practice track for he and his 2 sons. They were all professional motorcyclists. And somebody said, well, you should maybe try automobiles on the racetrack. And Carroll and I talked, and he said, look, we're running on Friday night, so come on out and just see what you think. And I got out there, and he asked me if I'd ever flagged. And I said, no. He said, well, we need a flag. No, I said one time, that I was on a flag stand one time, but I didn't say I flagged.
Yeah.
So he said, well, our flagman didn't show up, so would you do it? And I said, well, yeah, I'll do it. And got up there, and they didn't have any rules. I mean, they didn't have any score. They had scores, but the way they scored, if the back marker started to get passed by the front markers, then they pushed a little switch over there and turned the white light on, and that's white flag. You throw the white flag, then checkered flag comes up. But anyway, we went through it, and the next week, I went back out, and he said, Dargan, have you ever announced? I said, well, I've been announcing about 15, 16 years or so. He said, we'll get up there in the top and do it. So we did that for, I guess, 6 years, 5, 6 years. And really, it had gotten to a point that he and I had sort of struck a deal that we would co-promote the racetrack. And then the opportunity came that we could get back closer to our parents. Jane's mother lived in Wingate, and my mother lived in Bishopville in South Carolina, so we were able to get to Cary, North Carolina, so we'd be closer to them. But that was one of the hardest things I had ever did, was to tell Carroll and his wife Gladys that we were not going to be a part of the racetrack. But it was just so much fun down there. But
Sure.
'cause they just, I mean, it was strictly for fun.
All the people you get to meet.
And the funny,
friends.
I'd never seen the thing before. I've heard of it in other places, having a trophy given to the person that flips his car. And man, you'd have people out there flipping their cars, and the first who did it got the rear end of a horse.
Oh.
And that was the trophy. And
Never heard of that.
So,
I've never heard of that before. I mean, maybe in a demolition derby or something, but
no, this was an every week deal.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
a certain individual had a gremlin, and that thing would turn in a minute,
about
and he always got the trophy. And so, but anyway, we went on up the ladder a ways. They had a big track down there, a 5/8 mile high bank. And you had the Fryer brothers, Bobby Allison, Donnie, the fellows from Pensacola and all over that came down and raced there. And we ended up closing that track, which was the second track that I had worked, and it closed. But anyway, we've just been scattered around, and the longest length of time that I announced was at Sumter, which was I started in '65 and went through '71. And the reason I stopped in '71 was I had the PR and all of the stuff, sort of Copa Motor type deal at Columbia, Sumter, Myrtle Beach, and Fayetteville, and just didn't have the opportunity to announce there, and unless it was its fill-in that the regular announcer didn't show up. But that's the reason my voice is so. Right now, I learned later on from an old radio man that when we did a direct radio broadcast, the first 2 years I used 2 microphones. I had 2 microphones. One was PA, one was direct radio, and when you're announcing in these open towers, you're trying to shout over the cars.
sure.
And the fellow said, well, we'll just rig up a deal where you put headphones. And I put the headphones, and I could lower my octaves by about 40%. And the voice just went right on smoothly.
So saying that, I've noticed that whenever so a lot of people I have in here, when they turn away from the microphone or whatever a little bit, yours gets kind of still, I can still hear you very clearly.
Well, I think it's the old vocal cords have been vibrated so much that they sort of go at. Well, Jane and I argue an awful lot.
Oh yes, yeah, especially directions how to get here from Troutman.
Oh my! Oh my!
But that was one thing that I thoroughly enjoyed, and my favorite driver throughout my racing career in announcing was Willie Turnover.
Okay.
You know, back years ago.
Speaking of turning over,
you never all of your writing or anything else was done by pen and pencil.
Okay.
And pencil and piece of paper, really. And you'd go out and you'd try to get all the people's names, but somebody would come in later.
You didn't have a laptop in the '60s. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't have a computer back in those days.
I know that.
Period.
Yes.
But anyway,
you'd
you'd always find somebody to slip in that you didn't have his name.
Okay.
So Willie Turnover would be the number one driver.
That was his real name.
And, every week I had a different Willie Turnover.
Oh, okay.
Willie Turnover.
Will he Turnover? I get it now. Okay.
And then if we had more than one person that showed up without a name, then he was Slide Clyde or whatever.
Yes.
But
Slipstream something.
Yeah.
Slipstream Willie.
But it was funny when you started doing write-ups and you'd have Willie Turnover's name.
Yes.
Every time. No, it didn't take long for a person to in racing or football announcing or anything else. That the people would get that name up there once he didn't get his name called, and they're out there for one thing, and that's like a story I told you about with the umpire at the World Series. They wanted recognition, and they didn't like it that I nicknamed the driver Willie Turnover, but somebody should have brought his name up there for me to start with. But we enjoyed it.
Sure.
It was fun time.
Yeah. So if we have all right, the picture that's on the thumbnail here, the opening picture, I'm going to put it back up on the screen. Now that picture, tell us about that. How old you were?
Which one?
How young you were? The one you were talking about
right
before
here.
the show. You were telling me.
Oh, okay, that one. No, I can't see it.
When you were young.
Oh, that was either my first trip or my second trip. My father died when I was 11 years old, and he had cancer for, he was 9 months after he was operating on the first time. He passed away, but I guess I was 9 when Daddy got cancer. But I was either 15 or 16 in that picture, and was one of the representatives from South Carolina to represent the Future Farmers of America at the National Convention in Kansas City, Kansas. And that's what that is. I don't know whether that's the one that's got Cat's Drugstore in the back or not, but where you got CVS and all here, you had KATZ, all of your drugstores, and both Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri were Cats. And so that was what that was. And we took a 2-day journey by train from Columbia to Kansas City, Missouri, and then went across the river and stayed in Kansas City, Kansas both times. But it was quite an experience. The second time I was out there, I don't know why I was selected, but I was lucky enough to be invited out. I think it was 50 of us, and we went out to the Saddle and Sirloin Club in Overland Park. And that's where your Kansas Speedway is now, is Overland Park, Kansas.
Okay, I've been there.
And they just so happened to have Eddie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds were there, and it was more of a horse club. People that like got golf clubs and all. Well, being in Ocala, with all the horses there, we know what it is now. But anyway, it was where people just went riding, and they had trainers to teach people to ride and all this. And Eddie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds went horseback riding with him. And Fisher had never been on a horse before. Now Debbie had, because she was from Texas. And Hank Bauer was the right fielder for the New York Yankees was there, and Arnold Portocarrero, who was a pitcher for the Kansas City Royals, and several Peg Leg Bates and several other people were there to entertain us that night.
Some of these people, for the younger generation, you have to explain who they are. I know I've heard of Debbie Reynolds, okay, but the other guy you were talking about,
Eddie Fisher.
Yes.
You never. Well, she was. Eddie married. He was married 3 times, Jane? Elizabeth Taylor was one.
I was going to say Elizabeth Taylor.
Debbie Fisher was the other, and I think he had a third wife. But
so we got Jane in with us as well. Jane said she prefers to stay off camera, so I guess we'll just leave her over there. She's watching from afar. We might just turn a camera on her though, so we can. Wouldn't that be good?
I think it should be. She's been a part of me for 56 years now. So.
Sure. Oh, I'm gonna.
So
Amazing.
you're on, Jane.
Well, not yet. I'm gonna have
she's
to.
not?
No,
Oh,
I'm gonna have to work on this. So I got
Yeah,
one
you
of
can
one
take
of
it
the,
off of me.
No, it's not that.
You're
One of the
fine.
cameras is yeah, not working right. So anyway, we'll get that.
But that explains that picture, and it was quite an honor. It really was. And to be selected a second time was even more so, and because I knew what to do, how to do, when to do, and all that. But
So you were just a young Bryson's age in this picture.
yeah, I was 16 the first time, and I guess 15 the first time, and 16 the second time, because I was a junior in high school, and we had a part-time football coach that. I had a really good night on the football field that night, and he said, "Dargan, well, I never been on the farm. Our interests more were farming than really playing football, even though I was there.
Sure.
And was fairly good at it. But this coach that they called him Jungle Jim, and he just told me after that game, he said, "You cannot miss. We got a big game coming up next week, and you cannot miss a single practice." And I didn't tell him a thing in the world about it. I was leaving on Saturday to go to Kansas City, and come Monday afternoon to practice, he wanted to know where I was. They said, "Well, he's in Kansas City."
Oh,
So
yeah.
it didn't sit too well with him, but anyway, he was just a part-time coach anyway.
Uh-oh. All right, so here, I got the Jane cam on now. There we go. Hey there, Jane. Have you seen Tarzan lately?
We swing in the vines together.
There you go. All right, very good. Sorry, I was working on that for some reason. Every time I do anyway, that's a long story.
Well, you know,
With
it's
the cameras.
funny. Jane's she never knows what to expect from me.
Yes, I can
And
imagine.
even on the first night I met Jane was at the racetrack.
Ah,
And she was supposed to be going to sell tickets, but they put her on the pit gate.
Okay.
And was helping to fill out the entry forms for insurance and all for Starlight Speedway in Monroe. And this fella had told me about her. He'd worked the gate too on the week before, and I was working at a racetrack in Florence, South Carolina. And he told me about her, and he said, "Oh, she's something, boy." And he said, "You need to meet her." So I just decided, instead of going back to Florence, I went to Starlight and
Yeah.
filled out the forms, and it just so happened to rain that night, and we had gone into the infield and sitting in Pete Keller. Pete was the competition director for the modified sportsman division in NASCAR at that time. We were sitting in Pete's car, and here I am trying to convince her that I was not married, because I was 26 at that time. And trying to convince her that I was not married, didn't have a house full of children and all this, and was trying to get her to
Hard to believe, wasn't it?
I told her, I said, let's go out to a restaurant or something and get a Coke or something with 2 straws. And
What year was this?
This was 1966.
Okay.
So every person I knew, they'd come knock on the window. Dargan, how the kids? How's the wife?
Yeah.
And here I am trying to persuade her that I am single, which I was.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I did talk her into end us going to the hilltop. But in the meantime, she had driven her car back to her home there in Wingate, and I drove my car, and then on the way back, I had a '65 Pontiac Grand Prix at the time, and of course she had console and stick shift the whole shooting match, and reached over and kissed her on the knee, and I said, "You're mine. You're branded." And
You're branded. I like that.
so even on our wedding day, she thought it was going to be, well, just a regular honeymoon, whatever. But I got the harebrained idea after the rehearsal on Saturday night that I would drive her car back to Sumter, and I would call friends of ours, because her brother went back with me because he was really afraid that something had happened to me, that those grown men had really messed me up that night before. That maybe not have any children later on. But anyway, well, they told him it was, my brother in particular said it was battery acid that they were putting on me. But anyway, I called a friend of ours, and they were taking their 2 sons were coming to the wedding, 90 miles. And then I called another friend and asked if Rick, her brother, could ride with him. So we went up there, and after the wedding, poor souls, Jane put the suitcase in the trunk, and here's the just married sign on the back, and they had the soap and everything else. They were going to decorate my car. Well, we rode back with Roy and Esther Artis and their 2 sons. There's Roy and Esther in the front with one of the sons, and here's Jane and myself in the back with the other son. And somebody did get some soap on the back window, just married. And my brother, who led the parade for about 20 miles to Pageton, they finally gave up and pulled off. And we spent the first night at home together, and but it's been stuff like that all along. Like one night we were having at the Elks Club, we were going to be having breakfast, and they ran out of all the eggs and bacon and everything. And I got on the PA system and said, "Look, if any of you want to eat breakfast, come to our house. We'll feed you."
Oh,
and
that was generous.
And when we got home,
how'd that work out,
there were
Jane?
about 25 cars out front.
Oh yeah, sure.
But every person that came brought eggs, bacon, toast, the whole shooting match. We just had a big party there at the house.
Sounds like it. Yeah. All right, so was meeting Jane, was that the best thing that you've ever done? Kind of
by far.
Okay.
Because her brothers and their sister, all of them are listening tonight. So, yes,
hey, y'all.
That's the best thing that ever happened to me, was getting into the carpenter family.
Thanks for listening. Yeah. What was the family carpenter?
Yeah, they were carpenters.
Okay. And, so they can come build you stuff.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. That's what carpenters do, in case y'all didn't know.
Yes.
I mean, y'all were
do.
being quiet, so I
No.
didn't know.
Sorry, I should have.
But her family name is Carpenter, so.
Yes. Oh, okay. Named after great grandfather Carpenter, right?
Yes.
Pretty much. Hey, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, if you have a question for Dargan, this is Mr. Dargan Watts, you can put it in here on the screen, and Tracy or Bryson will read it.
Absolutely.
As soon as we get back. So y'all don't go anywhere. Dargan Watts on Racing Roots with Hamm.
With more than 20,000 students, Iredell Statesville schools rank among the 20 largest school districts in North Carolina. Our teachers represent a wealth of knowledge, with the average teacher in our district having 15 years of teaching experience. Iredell Statesville Schools' innovative approach blends a one-to-one technology initiative with collaborative best practices and a hands-on approach to learning. In addition to traditional school settings, the district provides a wide range of exciting educational opportunities through our choice programs, specifically designed for unique student needs. No matter your age, your background, or your personal goals, there's a place for you in the Iredell Statesville Schools.
Hey folks, Billy Buck here, and I wanted to introduce you to our friends over at Hall's Welding and Mechanical. Now, if you've got a business that's in need of mobile welding services or fabrication, mechanical contracting, industrial safety systems, new equipment installs, and so much more, I want you to give Caleb a call over at Hall's Welding and Mechanical. It's locally owned and operated. It can take care of all your needs. They got a huge attention to detail and safety, let me tell you. Let the expert at Hall's come to you. Give them a call, 704-402-8788. That's 704-402-8788. Tell them Billy Buck sent you by. Great shopping and dining is just a short drive away in beautiful, historic downtown Newton. Just 20 minutes from Statesville, Newton has so much to offer. Stop by today and visit.
Debbie Lynn's Closet is a unique boutique that offers upcycled, recycled, and new handcrafted items. All of the items at Debbie Lynn's Closet are made by Debbie or other talented area sewists, makers, metalworkers, and weavers. Lots of fun and cute items to choose from. Sling bags, clutches, hats, tumblers, capes, handbags, scrunchies, jewelry, and so much more. Debbie is also happy to create that custom piece just for you. Stop by and check out all of the amazing items at Debbie Lynn's Closet. Open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Located at 121 North College Avenue in beautiful downtown Newton.
Take some time to shop and dine and discover Newton today.
At Banner Drug, we are proud to say we have been caring for our patients in our community since 1996. Our pharmacy offers a personalized customer service experience you expect from a locally owned store. To help you with your prescriptions, all 4 Banner Drug locations can deliver your medication right to your door. You can call in your prescription refill order, or better yet, use the convenient refill button on our website, www.bannerdrug.com.
Real Country, WAME.
And we're back to Racing Roots with Hamm on this fine fall-like evening. Actually, summer's coming back, but that's okay. We're nice and cool in here in the Randy Marion studio, and we got Mr. Dargan Watts in with us this evening, and his lovely wife Jane has joined us to tell us the truth about Dargan. I've already heard one thing that she just told us about the things that he does. That he tells, things that he, whatever. Anyway, I don't want to say that L word. Hey, but we were talking about carpenters, and I mentioned that Jesus was a carpenter. So who was it? Random Epic says he was? Tim?
Yeah, Random Epic is a carpenter.
Mr. Tim there, thank you for tuning in.
So the one question that has come through, excuse me, these Doritos are spicy. Dickie says, can we hear the story behind the Nova pictured with Dargan?
The Nova.
When you were 16, what was it, 15 or 16 in that picture you had?
Oh.
Had a Nova behind it, apparently.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, there's a Nova behind it. It's 60-something, right? Tracy's eating spicy. This doesn't do well with her. I don't know why.
I don't know, because we've only got about 28,000 pictures on there. But
well, the picture here of you at 16.
Yeah.
He's asking about that.
I don't know where you got that one.
Okay, you don't. I found it. I have a way of finding things. Actually, you sent me some pictures. And that was one of the ones I picked out of the pile of pictures. You have so many pictures that you don't even realize how many you have.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the deal.
No, I've got well, this is one thing
I know
that
what
you and
it
I
is.
talked about.
I'm sorry. I know what it is. It's the car in the picture, the 46 car.
Oh, okay. That's Roy Mayne. Roy Mayne drove that car.
Yeah.
And Roy was one of the racing. He was known as one of the racing sergeants. In fact, we had 2 racing sergeants at Shaw Air Force Base at one time. Dick Poling was another driver. But this car I helped to build, and of course, we lived in Sumter, and Roy was at Shore Air Force Base, which was right outside of Sumter. And we put I was in heating and air conditioning business at that time, and loaded up a 4-foot brake and some, I think it was maybe 24 gauge sheet metal, and a few other, some pop rivets and some other stuff, and some power shears and all, and away we went to Cashiers, North Carolina. It's 4.5 hours, but we got there, and Tom Hunter, who was the car owner, had bought the car from a dealer in Asheville, and had 88 miles on it. And here it is, sitting on the floor. He's already taken the wheels off. It's on the regular frame. You got the doors off, laying over to the side. But it had one little thing that I always remember. On the rear sticker, it still had the sticker on it, the sales price.
Oh, wow. And
the car was $3,300.
Wow.
And just imagine that then and now. And it was a 1968 Chevelle. And we just tore into it. Of course, Tom built his own engines at that time, and then I started with putting in the taking out the dash and putting in a dash that I just formed right there, and did all the firewall and everything, and did as much as we could, and went back up the next week, and I didn't do an awful lot in that one. I was bent around the roll bar cage and was putting a sleeve around the roll bar, and had the part rivet, had already drilled a hole, had the part rivet gun in my hand, started to pull on it, and my back went out. So
that's when you said, okay, I'm going to be an announcer instead of...
That was, we still worked on it. I worked,
Sure.
In fact, that car, we didn't get it ready for Daytona. And the first race we ran was Atlanta. And if I'm not mistaken, we finished 7th in that race. It's,
okay.
Strictly independent. And we had several top 10s. And I think I was in the pits. And I didn't have the nerve that you did to go around
run around the car
to the side, to the right side. No, sir.
Yeah, because cars go flying by you on that side.
And my job, and back in those days, you didn't automatically change the tires on them either. You came in, you checked your tires to see if they were worn enough that you needed to put tires on. So I had an old putty knife that I would scrape the tire to get down to get the little nipple, see if it still had the little nipple on there, and if it was okay. And then I helped and some of you don't know, back in the day, and I guess it's still pretty much the same thing, but a full tank of gas weighed about 200 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And back in those days, you didn't have that coupler that popped in. You had to screw the gas cap off, and I screwed the gas cap off and put the old plastic over the filler pipe.
Okay.
And then the gas man would put the thing in, and then I'd check the tire and then go to the left front and get that and say yeah or nay. And that's when it changed the tires, was after I would say yes or no. And one time Tom jumped all over me. He felt that he had another 20 or 30 laps on one of the tires, and we ended up changing. So we just put the tire back on again. And,
gotcha.
But that's what that car was, and we ran it 2 years. And I think I was involved in it maybe 12, 14, 16 times maybe. But I was on the pits at Daytona a couple of times, Atlanta, Rockingham, Charlotte, and Roy was a good driver. And Tom he built a car that would run just a certain speed, but it never blew an engine. And just very dependable, but not fast. And But it was Roy Mayne, who was a tech sergeant at Shore Air Force Base, was the driver of it. And Roy, in fact, I was best man in Roy's wedding when he got married the second time. So.
Okay. Hey, we had a question from our buddy Scott Travis. He's out in Columbia, Tennessee, and we'll talk about. Go ahead and ask that question, Teresa.
He wants to know, did Mr. Dargan know Gene Granger from Spartanburg, South Carolina?
I certainly did.
He said, please tell us a story about him.
Fine man. I think he drove a number 23, maybe. Chevelle.
Okay.
I think that's what he did. But yeah, he ran with us in Columbia and also probably in Hickory and also Greenville Pickens, because that was his home track. But yeah, I remember Gene well.
He said, do you have a story about him to tell?
Not that I could mention on here tonight.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Yes. Keep it PG, people.
Yeah. Jane, do you have any? Okay, so how did you like the Mount Airy Moonshiners and Racers reunion that we just went to?
That was so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it rained, but it was amazing the number of people that came through for the autograph session.
Yes,
and
that was impressive.
And just getting to see everybody, it was really quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Even being from North Carolina, I had never been to Mount Airy before.
Oh, okay.
Surprisingly.
That's my second time.
Yeah.
So.
And I thought the town is just really neat. And then, of course, when they called the friend of ours, when they called, I can't even think of it.
She tell names.
Yes.
And always
when they
talking
called
about
Ricky
Weeks,
they were beside us. When they called Ricky's
name. Hey, Ricky, you jump on her.
When they called Ricky's name to be awarded to have the Wall of Fame.
Right.
I said, oh, my goodness, that's just fantastic. I said, I had no idea. I was telling his wife this. And she said, oh, yes, I knew about it.
And what's his wife's name?
Oh man, gosh! All right, so she's on that.
Myra, she's got one on you now.
She's already told me I don't need to have a cell phone.
Here's the deal.
She said, I've called you, and you have not called me back.
Yeah, well, Dargan is used to being in the spotlight. He's used to being announcing and let's say radio and all this kind of stuff. So
I'm in the background.
Yeah, well, but that
and you know when he was announcing. We had bought an old mimeograph machine. This was back in the day. We had an old mimeograph machine, and we would load that thing in the trunk of the car. And Dargan would do envelopes. He would send out releases to all the wire services, newspapers, radio, everybody before a race. And then when the race was over, he would write the story. I would type the stencil, and we would get the releases out and then leave and go to the next track. And Fayetteville he announced the races there, and they had an air-conditioned press box. And so I would sit there and read while the race was going on. And then he would type the story. I would then do the stencil, and we would get the releases out. Then when we got home back to Sumter, this is when we were living there, we got back to Sumter, and he would have score sheets from that local track there. And it was just, it was quite a life during that time. Of course, our son was very young, but he loved going to all the tracks because he got to see all the drivers, and he just thought it was the greatest thing.
Yeah, sure.
But quite interesting.
Well, I got you mic'd up now. You got your own mic. So
there you
for
go.
The rest of the show.
Thank you so much.
You're doing well, Jane.
Thank you.
You're doing well. You're a lot better than I am.
Yes. So we're talking about the...
and Ricky and Myra, please forgive me.
Well, that was my point with saying that Dargan, he can remember the names and stuff. He's used to being in the spotlight versus someone that's not used to it. It's hard to
I remember faces, not names.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the one thing about, Phil Marsh and Bill Blair, the co-coordinators of this thing, they've got a town that they love what what they're doing. They want this thing every year. They really do. And I know the time that Bill has spent on it, and having been involved in the historic North Turn Parade down in Ponce Inlet for 11 years now. I start. Okay, the parade was the 12th of February of this year. I started working that afternoon on the one that will be held on the 11th of February of 2023. It's 365 days a year. And I talked to Bill this afternoon, and you could tell then that he's worn out. And it just takes that, and he just put his heart and soul into it. And
yes. Hey, Tracy, quit tapping. You're tapping. Tap. Anyway, yes. So he was started right on it next year.
Oh yeah.
That evening.
You have to. That's the only way you can make it a success. Is plan. It's do a little something different every time, and I'll guarantee you they'll. But I really and truly, James is talking about Ricky getting his. Well, I knew that Ricky had gotten his award because I saw a picture of his nameplate on the wall, and when Bill called my name, really truly, he called it, I think, 3 times before it sunk in of, hey, he's calling me up there.
So you didn't know that
I had no idea whatsoever. And
did you know?
For the first time ever, I could not talk.
Okay.
If I had said 3 words, I would have been crying. Really, I would have.
You said more than 3 words. So you did fine.
Well, I don't think I thanked the people enough for it, but it was such a shock.
Yeah.
And Jane and I rode back by there and. Had to take a look at it that night, and then we went back the next day and we took some pictures of all of the plaques so we could have the pictures for everybody, so I can get them posted and have it so everybody on the board can see it, and
sure,
and other people can too. But
they're joking around with me on YouTube saying "keep tapping, Tracy" or something like that.
They laughed because I got in trouble. Told me to keep doing it.
With the pen right up here, so.
I know, but it's different.
I pointed at her, and then she just kept doing it. See, she doesn't wear headphones, so she don't hear everything that I hear. And if these pedestals on these microphones, if you tap on this,
they
wood,
pick it up very well.
Yeah.
Well, the mics are really good, but any little movement, anything like you can really like that right there.
Yep.
It picks it up. So, yeah, it's just it's one of those things.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But
just don't let it happen again.
If you've looked
I've
on,
been double dared.
if you've looked on your site,
yes,
this week, right under it, it has just one right after another of Dargan Watts.
yes.
That is Junior, and the Birchmore Group. That's his thing.
Okay.
You think I can promote?
Yeah.
You
All right.
think Humpy Wheeler can promote?
Yeah.
Really and truly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Junior can he could come up with stuff like that, and in fact he did for the shows at Daytona. In fact, he was the coordinator for the entire deal for the first nighttime race, and introduced fireworks for the first time. He introduced the confetti gun that people hate to see now, but
oh yeah. Why is that? They don't like that confetti gun. I don't know.
Well, it's sort of your photographers don't like it because it messes up the picture. The confetti coming down. But
thank you, Tracy, for doing that. That was one of the Kruger brothers picking up his keys. He was here with Rocky Lynn.
Option, but you're welcome.
He was here earlier. Rocky Lynn was here, and so hey, Rocky Lynn, if you're tuned in, he likes listening to the show too.
Well, you've got some listeners. You've got a faithful bunch of people out there, and
they're the best.
And while I'm thinking about it, I just want to say hello to a young lady that served us today at Outback, and her name is Rachel.
Rachel
happens to be Jane's mother's name, so we know that, and also the manager. was Tiffany.
Tiffany at Outback.
And the one that we really appreciate from right here in
Here we go again.
Save the day.
Right here, well, everybody ought to go shake his hand.
Yes.
And when we asked directions on how to get here, a well-known person,
Someone that's directionally challenged,
put us in, where is it, Troutman? She had the address for Troutman, North Carolina, instead of...
Gee, who was that did that? I don't think she's on camera right now, but maybe she is.
I don't know who would be that silly.
She sounds crazy.
But Officer Sexton.
I'm only kidding.
He was so kind. We rented him in the,
Officer,
well, we didn't actually literally run into him, but we saw him in the parking lot as we were going in, and we said, "Excuse me, do you know where this is?" And he took the phone.
He said, he said not in Statesville, North Carolina. He said Troutman, yes.
Oh, yes. Now, Officer Sexton, is he in one of Troutman's finest?
No,
he's here.
Statesville, at the Outback in Statesville.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't stay there. But
No, he was
No,
dining there.
yes.
I was thinking you meant down in Troutman's where you ran into him. Okay. Okay. That's good.
Yeah, that's what I had. That's what I was thinking as well.
Right.
We appreciated his help.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for that.
He was very
Officer.
kind because Jane, she's as bad with her cell phone.
We're challenged with our cell
Directionally
phones.
challenged.
You think
So
she's forgetful on names, like the weeks.
Yeah.
And we consider the Weeks as some of our closest friends. And I mean, they are family. We spent the day with them yesterday and just had a ball. And
it's like this. When we're going to Mount Airy and Tracy asked me which direction on 77, let's see.
No, I just said, which way do I need to turn?
Right.
You said north.
Yeah, she don't
Is
know
that
which way
left
north
or right
is.
or backwards?
Pull off the road and look, where is the sun
Bless
so
your
that
heart.
I can see
Bless my heart.
Right.
Well, first you need to whip out your compass and then look at the road map.
I mean, okay.
I can't do 15
I'm only
things at
kidding.
once.
I know you are. So listen, if you're driving towards you see the mountains ahead of you, like, you know you're going towards Hickory's this way. That's the west, right? Yeah, most likely.
I have no idea.
Oh,
I go the way my GPS tells me to go.
I do too.
And he's not a good GPS, just so y'all know.
Well, I think some people like and it's not a bad thing, but I think kind of like a sense of direction is kind of like a natural thing because some people can kind of tell where they're at really good, what direction they're headed, whatever.
Not me.
And I mean, you can gain that, I guess, but it's just I don't know.
It's plus years.
It's
Don't
not
work.
something everybody's got, but that's okay.
Well, Dargan can.
Yeah.
But before we were married, I'm surprised I even
well,
married
an
him.
example of this.
Because we were going to visit my sister
yeah.
in Columbus, Georgia, and we had left Wingate, had gone all the way to Charlotte, and I said, I know we go by the racetrack.
Yeah.
We ended up in Concord and Kannapolis, just a few miles from Wingate, back
we were
where
12
we had
miles from where we started, but we had driven 80 miles.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Talk about
Well,
it.
James said,
Big.
we've got to go in a different direction. I said, no. I said,
terrible.
I've always wanted to go to Kannapolis and see where Ralph Earnhardt.
And so he drove around. We have this
And Cannon
long
Mills,
trip.
I've never seen that. And
And he drove all around the area.
Yes. Well, the downfall of the Neanderthals, where I think one of the things they couldn't get around, they didn't know where they were going. And their brains were small,
That was
but
the
it
downfall.
kind of goes hand in hand. But anyway.
But David, you asked
I
about
ignore him
where I've announced.
Not David, but Dargan.
One of the craziest names of any was Boot Hill Speedway outside of Shreveport, Louisiana.
Okay.
It was right there on the Texas line,
I like the name.
I went out there one night when I was working in that area and just going to watch the race, and a fellow got me up in the announcer's tower. But the thing about Baton Rouge too, those fellows, the majority of them are Cajun. And I don't know whether. Well, you take your LSU Tigers. When they say "Go Tigers," it's Geaux.
Yeah.
And Gautreaux is spelled Gautreaux.
Oh, okay.
It's Gautreaux.
Yes.
Gautreaux.
Yeah.
And Hebert. And Hebert is Hebert.
Kind of French-like, right?
Oh yeah. Well, it is French.
Good day, your mates.
The Cajuns they had a falling out with either the king or the queen up in Nova Scotia. So they decided they'd get on a boat and would come to Virginia.
Oh, Nova Scotia.
So they came to Virginia, but they passed Virginia and North Carolina and South Carolina and Georgia, all the way down tail end of Florida, got up into the Gulf of Mexico and ended up in the section of Louisiana called Acadiana.
Is that a true story?
Yeah,
Okay.
very true. It
I was
is
just
100%
thinking about what you told
true.
me earlier.
But Cajuns, they're the finest people in the world, and can cook. My Lord, can they ever cook?
Oh, okay.
But,
Creole
if
style.
they like you, they love you. If they don't like you, they won't give you the time of day.
Your name's Mud. Yes.
But I really enjoyed the time that I had at both of the racetracks in the Baton Rouge area. But the old Carroll's Raceway now is Baton Rouge Speedway, and he's going great guns. Yeah.
All right. That's cool. I'd like to go down. I've never been to Louisiana area. I've never been down there. I've been near, kind of sort of near.
We never had been until we moved
We'd never
there.
been either until we moved there.
And
Was it a culture shock?
No.
Not really.
It was.
All right.
Not really.
We'll try it out sometime.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We'll ride down there tomorrow or something.
Oh, sure.
If I can find my
to
way.
Louisiana.
Because I'm your driver. I have to drive you everywhere you go.
I navigate. I'm a better navigator than I am
no,
a driver.
You're not.
But David White, one thing that I do want to mention,
Yes.
that got you and what's her name?
Let's see. Her name would be directionally challenged Tracy.
My name is always in trouble.
Is the
That would be Hamm.
historic,
Yes.
historic, and very historic North Turn
Yes.
beach parade, beach road course parade. And for the people who don't know, this is on the exact. Well, it's a little bit different right now. In fact, the overall course that the people that participate in the parade go about 3/4 of a mile farther now, because where it used to be nothing but sand dunes, and where women had to, when they had to do something, you didn't find any porta-johns at that time. And
Okay. Go in the water.
And the reason, well, no, the
I'm
reason
just
they
kidding.
wore
February.
flared out skirts
Yeah.
was they just flared them out and squatted and then went
Okay.
along. And that came, and I know she's listening tonight.
That's interesting.
That told us about that one way of doing it with Nina Cox. And
Yeah.
anyway, James punching me. Don't say that. But anyway, they built some all kinds of high rises and moved the old 1A is now the South Atlantic.
Okay.
And we've had cars come from as far away as Albuquerque, New Mexico, and from Canada, and 5 and 6 cars from New England, and that come down just to participate and make that one lap around the old road course.
Yes. Hey, Tracy, I got a question for you. First of all, when I set that down, you don't hear it because it's anyway. Which way would the North Turn restaurant? What direction? What turn is that restaurant located in?
Is it the 4th?
Okay. And what direction is that restaurant from the track? Which way's?
Well, let's see. If the ocean is east, it would have to be the west.
Okay. How about the north? Because it's called the North Turn restaurant.
But it's the north turn of the circle.
See, back in the day,
I know. I get
you
all
didn't
kind
have
of
turns. You just had North Turn and
couldn't resist.
and South Turn, and that was it. You didn't call out 1, 2, 3, and 4. You just
North and south.
But anyway, what we do with the parade down there, this is will be our 12th year. No car newer than 1958 can compete. It must have lettering on the car, just as a race car did back in the 40s and 50s when they raced on the beach. And the people, they'll come in 7 o'clock in the morning and start parking them and 2 years ago, the owners of, and this is a question a lot of people have come up. The Glasnicks, who own the North Turn for 23 years, operated it for 23 years, bought it from. He was a CBS radio and TV announcer for many years. He's still around, but he doesn't do any TV stuff anymore. But anyway, he owned it, and they operated it. And finally, last year, they sold it. And a lot of people said, "Well, there goes the parade." But that is not the case at all. In fact, I could have passed out more applications up there at Mount Airy and gotten more. But anyway, I did pass out a couple of entry forms and already got them filled out, and they're ready to go. And the first one to fill one out is Ricky Weeks.
All right.
That'll be his first trip down there.
You can put him in a car?
Yeah, he's going to be in the car, but Ricky's he's worried about being able to get through the window.
Sure,
so,
he's a big guy.
He was a big guy.
Well, he used to race. He used to climb in the window, so maybe he can still find some way of doing it.
Maybe he's still flexible.
Yeah, maybe
he'll
so.
make it. I've got a car. I'll call him. Call the fellow who owns it. He's got about 20 cars in what he calls the Taj Mahal.
Okay, might have to be a 58 model. Is it a bigger? One of those cars. Okay.
Well, I managed to get in a dress.
Yeah, you did.
You did.
Climbed right through there, and sat.
But anyway, the parade is on. Sort of pushed a little bit more onto me, but the parade is on 1,000%, and the new owners are behind it 1,000%, and.
That was one of the coolest experiences in my life, getting to go down there and do that. We get there to North Turn Restaurant, and it's they raced there in they actually raced there in 48, but didn't they race there in 47, like an exhibition or something? But
the first competitive events. Well, see, your first competitive events on the beach were what they call the measured mile.
Okay.
And I've heard from 2 or 3 different people that say that it was 2 miles before you got to the 1 mile trap. They measured your speed from the start of the 1 mile to the end of 1 mile, but you had 2 miles to build up steam on the beach. And here you are running that on that beach now at 200 miles an hour in stock cars.
Sure.
And I had the privilege of driving the pace car 3 years ago, when Vicki Wood, who still owns the lady, she was 99 years old when she rode in her last parade. Vicki still owns the track record on the beach at 150.465 miles an hour.
Wow.
And it was in a Kefauver car. And he just came up to us and said, we want to put you in the car. She got in it. But Vicki won 40-something races, not NASCAR sanctioned, but pickup races up in Ohio and up in northern states. But
that's something people don't realize. They were running those modifieds and stuff all around before NASCAR sanctioned.
Gracious, yeah. And
strictly stock.
And another thing, last year we had the 1950 winner, and he has a car there. And this is a funny thing on this car. It's an old Gober Soulsby car, and it was a moonshine car, and it was also Gober's wife's car. And if you looked inside the car, it had a stainless steel dash.
Okay.
It was shined up just as bright and shiny as you could have. And a good friend of ours, Bud Layton from White, Georgia, owns that car. And he had 4 cars, as usual. Gahan's car from up New England way, Curtis Turner's car that he drove, an old 39 Ford. And he had I can't remember who drove the 55 Chevrolet, but he just every car that he has, and he's got about 40. They are all former race cars. They're not rebuilds. They're not your tribute cars or whatever. They were actually, everything he's got is a certified race car. But this this number 50, he still, the car that he has still has the bullet holes in the trunk.
Wow, yeah.
And he's filled them. Put some weld joints in there and filled up the hole and smoothed it over. But you raise the hood and you see where the holes came through the trunk lid.
Okay.
And the funny thing on that car is Soulsby actually won the race on the beach in 1949, and he ran somebody sabotaged his car. They had stuffed a drag down into the filler pipe, and he couldn't get any gas in it when they came in for a pit stop. So he made another lap, and Jack Smith, who had started the race, but his car had broken, and Jack grabbed a 5-gallon can and jumped in the back of the car as Gober came by for the second time, and stopped for the pits, stopped in the pits. Well, Jack jumped in with the 5-gallon can, separated the filler pipe, and was able to pour the gas in directly into the tank. And he jumped out before he got to the to the north turn with the can. Wow. And he won the race.
That's wild.
And after the race was over, Bill French came up to him and said, Gober, you didn't win the race. And Gober said, why? He said, well, you had 2 people riding in the car while it was in motion. And he said, we can't have that. And he said, nothing in the rule. And of course, back in those days, 1949, your NASCAR rules were 1 page.
Right.
And you can't do this, you can't do that, and what have you. And Bill asked somebody to bring them the rules, and the fellow brought it over there, and he took a pencil and
wrote it in.
Put it in and said, nobody, 2 people cannot ride in the car at the same time while it's in motion. And you're negligated to the 11th position, and Banjo Matthews ended up winning.
Well, it was worth a try.
Well, the next year, he came down with the same car, and the car was being towed by his wife's car. Well, Gober wrecked the car that he'd won in the year before, and they couldn't fix it. So they took parts off of it, put it on the tow car. He entered it in the race, won it.
Okay.
And so he won 2 in a row. He actually won 4 races all total. He won 49, 50, and 51. And then he won in 1954, I think it was, in your new car. And the funny thing, last week, I couldn't type it in soon enough when Peggy and Joy won, and talking about Tim. Tim got disqualified down there for illegal roll bars.
Yes.
He was using
for illegal
2x4s.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
Yeah,
I didn't
he
hear that
won the
part.
race. Well, that was the first year that they had required roll bars.
Yeah.
So he just he put some 2x4s in there and said, well, it was roll bars.
Yes. How about that?
Bill Blair's father, he bought the car in High Point, drove it to Daytona. And most of them used, and I remember this, having been born and raised within 30 miles of Darlington. And after the race, seeing these cars come through, and a majority of them were actually lettered with shoe polish.
Okay.
And they'd come in and stop at the Gulf Station, fill up, and head on to California or Georgia, wherever. And they had been in the race. And it's a funny tale on that, too. And here we get back to Nina Cox. Marion Cox, and I've got a page dedicated on Facebook that's dedicated just to Marion Cox and his family.
Yes,
because it's such a touching story about the whole Cox family. Marion was called a preacher. And a lot of people think that Marion would not race on Sunday, that if his car were leading the race at midnight, he'd pull him in, but that's not the case. He never pulled a car in, but he would not start a car on Sunday. Say the program was a little over and getting started and what have you, he would not start a race on Sunday. But anyway, Marion bought a 1955 Chevrolet, entered in the in the Southern 500, and I sent you a picture of the Fireball Roberts car with the trap door. Well,
yes. With the wooden
Marion
handle.
didn't have the little pull on it. It just the wind would open it.
Oh, okay.
And
because there was a rope with a wooden handle on the end.
Yeah, that's what you pulled, and it was on a spring, and you
went
pulled it out. Well, this with Marion's, it didn't have the spring on it.
Yeah.
It was open, and didn't have a door on it either. It just it started pouring down rain, and they drove the car home. And Nina told Marion, said, "Marion Cox, you're going to have to get something put over that hole." And she said, "It's flooding me." And the water's just coming up into her face and all this. Well, he stopped at the service station and got some cardboard from probably Exxon or whatever. And, you know, your oil used to come in the little cardboard cans, but it was in a cardboard box, too, your 24 cans of it. Well, he tore that thing and put it down at the bottom. Well, he kept on going, and the water kept coming up and it started melting that cardboard. And Nina said it took 2 weeks to get all that stuff out of her nose and her ears and her hair.
Wow.
But Marion, he had a very capable driver from Union, South Carolina, Billy Scott. They won 3 track champions in 1967. But the next year, he hired a fellow by the name of Haskell Willingham, 19 years old. Well, they won 2 track champions and about 40 races that year. In fact, at the North Carolina State Fairgrounds in Raleigh, they had nicknamed the racetrack the Haskell Willingham Speedway because he won so many times. And he got a call from Holman and Moody. And, well, he got a call from Ford Motor Company and wanted Marion and Haskell to meet them at Holman Moody Garage, that they had something they needed to talk about. And they sat him down and told him that they thought enough of him and his capabilities and all of this that they wanted him to have the same type setup that the Wood brothers did. And Marion said, he shook his head and said, "I'm sorry, but he said, all those races are run on Sunday, and I don't race on Sunday." So he turned down multi-millions of dollars because of his belief. And but he won Daytona in the modified sportsman division. Won it twice. One time with Jimmy Thompson, and then came back 1968, I guess it was, with Marvin Patch as a driver, but the pit crew was the Wood brothers.
Yeah, how about that?
They volunteered to,
in their white
to do
suit,
it. Yeah.
their white outfits.
Yeah. So the family, everybody, and Marion learned everything he knew about engines and the building of engines from a $5 book on how to soup up engines, and that was the title of it.
Okay.
And he started going to Daytona and racing in the measured mile, and some of the factory people started looking at him and wanting to know what he was doing, how he was doing, because he was tearing up the factory people, and he was building engines for other people that were tearing up the factories. So, but he just he was just one of the finest people I've ever met, really, racing or otherwise. And
well, speaking of a $5 book, I took my book down to Waddell Wilson to get him to sign it. It was an $8 book. It was this engine book. I found it on eBay, and so I had him sign it down there at in the Mount Airy Moonshiners and Racers reunion. Yeah, that was very cool. And then the other thing I was going to bring up, I've got a book from 1930 something. It's all about combustion engines and stuff. I'll have to send you that and show you what it's got in there. But whenever you said that about him learning from a $5 book, that's what I had in my mind. It's from that old book that I have, because it's very informative, packed full of information.
Well, Marion's car, his first race car, was a mistake. It was named Slow Joe. Nana nicknamed it Slow Joe, but this fella came to him and asked him about building an engine for it. And Marion said, well, I've never driven anything for circle track, but he said, I'll give it a try. So Marion built the engine and called the fella, and the man came down, and he said, I hate to break the news to you, but he said, I don't have the money to pay you. But he said, I think enough of you and of what you've done, you can have the car.
Okay.
He had the rolling chassis and everything, but nothing but the only thing was missing was the engine. And Marion put, I think Bunk Moore was one of the original drivers, if I'm not mistaken, but Dink Widenhouse. Well, it's listed on one of the Facebook sites. I think it's 57 well-known drivers. Cale Yarborough got his first win from Marion Cox, which was the sportsman race at Charlotte. Ralph Earnhardt drove for him, won at Charlotte. Leroy Yarborough, and you were talking about week before last, and I haven't posted these pictures yet because I want to get them all together.
Sure.
Of Joe Frisson. That's one of the worst wrecks they ever had for a person to get out alive.
That fiery wreck you sent me the pictures of? Wow.
I've got a series of just the pictures and all, but it was so much heat that it melted the goggles.
Wow.
A lot of people said it melted his face, but it didn't. It just melted the goggles onto his face. But
yeah, like you said in the caption, can you imagine the heat to come out of that? It was like the whole car was engulfed, just one big fireball.
And the thing that caused it was Freddie Smith. Well, Jack Ingram, his transmission housing it just blew up. And you know how hot that thing is with the oil and everything else. Well, it flew into the windshield of Freddie Smith.
Oh, my gosh.
And Freddie's trying to get the thing out of his lap.
Yeah.
And then hit Frisson, who was coming by him, and into the wall he went. But,
so I always knew Freddie Smith as a local dirt track racer, just, up and down the eastern coast, I guess.
He was called the country gentleman, and one of the finest fellows. And Jeff's the same way. Jeff is just Jeff has built many not engines, but chassis for a lot of your dirt track people.
Okay.
And but Freddie's retired now, and I think just enjoying life.
Well, Ronnie Thomas sent me a text a little bit ago, and he said that he's going to bring Lou LaRosa down, because he didn't really like to drive, especially in evenings. But he's going to bring Lou LaRosa, engine builder.
Oh yeah.
So that'll be great.
Lou has been he's been to Daytona several times, but maybe not to the parade. But we'd love to have him.
Yeah, he was at the
I saw
races
him.
North Turn.
I talked to him a little while.
Yeah, I didn't even get to talk to him. There's a lot of people I didn't get over to talk to, but also I'm going to have Lanny Barnes on coming up in October. He's been an engine builder up there at Richard Childress Racing for at least 25 years now. Yeah, 26 years plus. He worked with me at Savco in 95.
Yeah.
So anyway, he left there and went to Richard Childress. So there'll be a couple of engine builders coming up soon.
Well, for the parade, everything's a go. The new owners they've made some changes there at the restaurant, and not that it wasn't good before, but it's even better now. And the only thing is that we've got a problem with is the tide, and high tide is noon, so you can't have it before, because the water's starting to come up.
Yeah.
And you got to wait till it goes down. So we've set a time between 2:30 and 3:30.
Okay.
Because it takes about 38 minutes from start to finish.
I thought it was like 37, but okay.
And
it didn't feel that long.
I'm just kidding. No, it didn't really. We rode around in that 41 Ford, and that was very cool. Steve Levitt let us use that car, you know, and it was driven by his dad, Gardner Levitt.
Oh yeah.
1941 Ford.
Yeah. I talked to Steve briefly last week, and he said that the 85 that he had was a beautiful car. He said he sold that, and that he was not building chassis anymore. That he was just full-time on one of the Xfinity teams, Xfinity teams. And
we'll have to get our friends Paul and Kit Rodriguez to come up this time. Got a frog in my throat to the Racing's North Turn, because Scott and Jana always join us. Or I'll say always this past year, but we're looking forward to that next year. That'd be great.
Well, we probably right now. My suggestion is we can't stage the cars on the beach. We'll just do it in the parking lot, and it's going to be crowded because. 3-4 years, well, it was the year before COVID. We had 30,000 people there, and we had neighborhood 7,500 last year. And you saw the crowd at 7,500, 30,000. You had the whole beach area pretty much covered.
Can imagine. There was a lot of people.
And the way we were doing it before, and Rhonda. Glasdick called me and said, Dargan, I don't know what we can do. You've got so many cars coming, we can't put them all in the parking lot. I said, hey, we got 2 miles on the beach, and of course everything has to be approved by the county.
Okay.
And in fact, everything will be decided as to. The parade will be done. I mean, it will go off and all, but we got some things that we'd like to do that has to be approved by the county, and they're having a meeting this coming Wednesday, and then we'll know for sure.
How long does it take to get all that stuff approved? Is that why it's good to get started soon?
Well, yeah, I would like to have gotten it done 2 or 3 months ago, but it just that was not part of what I've been responsible for. But anyway, hopefully next week, then we'll know and get the time approved and all that, because they know the tide deal more so than we do, because they're working with it every day.
Sure.
And they can and Bob Coolidge. Bob was one of the original 3 people that started with the parade, and Bob has had some health problems for the last couple of years, but he's still involved. And Hank and Bonnie Goodrich have pretty much taken along and gotten all of the parking facilities and parking for the cars and the tow cars and all that.
Sure. So, yeah, it's a lot to that.
Yeah.
So
it's not just 2 or 3 people. It's just like at Mount Airy. It takes more than one, and takes more than a dozen. It takes a whole town to do it.
Yeah. Sure. We mentioned Ricky Weeks, and also Sterling Marlin and Cuckoo Marlin were put on the wall there in Mount Airy at the Moonshiners and Racers reunion, and that's where our buddy Scott Trevison's up there in Columbia, Tennessee. He's going to go over and visit with Sterling for a little bit, and hopefully Sterling's going to come on the show, I believe in October.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
It'd be a good one. It'd be a good one.
Yeah. He's got a lot of racing, a short track racing history. There at Nashville Fairground Speedway, and also with his dad racing out there in the Nashville Spirit Fairgrounds Speedway. Which I've been out there to the old one. Have you ever been there?
Yeah.
Okay. I was out there, and then we went to the new Nashville, I think probably 2001, in the Busch Series.
Have you been to Indianapolis?
Yes, I have.
Have you?
Yes. Well, I was there in '96 when Kyle hit the wall, basically broke his leg, put him out of the race. And
no, I mean for Indianapolis 500.
No, I haven't been for the 500.
Okay.
No. Brickyard 400. So.
Jane and I were lucky enough to go in 1967.
Wow.
When Cale was driving for Bryant Heating and Cooling, and a funny story on that one. The hotel that they had us at was not even completed, and we had the Bryant people were putting on a deal for all of the dealers and wives and everything, and it was down the road a piece and across the parking lot. So when we got out, it was pouring down rain, and everybody was without an umbrella or a raincoat or whatever, and everybody was wondering, well, how are we going to get back to the Stauffer and not be soaking wet? Well, the fellow parking cars was out front, and I went to him and asked him if he wanted to make a few dollars, and he said, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, we'd like to ride over to Stauffer's, and maybe one of these cars come up, maybe just going across and then come back and park it in the valet parking lot.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, yeah. So I came back in the motel lobby, and I said, anybody need a ride to the Stauffer's? And I think it was, how many couples was it?
I think there were 6 couples.
6 couples, and we were in a Oldsmobile 98.
Mink stoles, long gowns. It was a formal dinner.
And some of the big wheels with Bryant. And we're sitting there in the car, and they're talking, oh, man, you got such a beautiful car, Dargan. Boy, this is something. I said, it's not my car. I said, well, who's it? I said, I don't know. The valet wanted to make $1 or $2, and here we are.
Yeah.
And my Lord have mercy. We were the talk of the town from then on, because we had to go up to the top floor.
Sweet.
And they had, the bathtub was just completely full of champagne. They had everything in the book, and the next day, I mean, everybody, hey, you got to meet this fella. And but all I did was just offer the fella a few dollars to park us across the way, and didn't hurt the car. Yeah. And just because it had eight additional people in it, that didn't mean. But nobody knew Cale Yarborough.
Okay.
I mean, the dealer said, who is this country boy? And I said, well, just bide your time a little bit till he gets rolling. And Cale, I think, had gotten to 3rd place and blew a tire and hit the wall. And but they knew who Cale was at that time. But Cale was going to come to the party that night. He'd raced in Charlotte in the World 600, and back then you had the Indianapolis 500 was on your regular Memorial Day, which I think fell on either a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
Okay. And
he wasn't able to make it that night because of the bad weather in Charlotte. But anyway, we were there with during the driver introduction, the drivers meeting, the whole shooting match, and the way they lined you up. You had a 3-tier grandstand, and your front row, 2nd row, 3rd row, all the way back to 33. You had 11 rows of 3. Right. And each driver that started first, he was down on the pole, and just like he'd be starting on Memorial Day. But
okay.
It was all different, and that was the year that Parnelli Jones led the majority of the race in the swooshmobile. And that was quite well, we're going to have to get used to it, because it looked like the electric car is going to be in the future for racing.
And, it sounds like it. Hey, we had some comments coming in on Facebook from Bill Blair and Ricky Weeks. And
well, I can imagine what Ricky said. Tell Jane what my name is.
Oh no, he didn't say that. He actually said that he has actually. I'm gonna let Bryson find it though.
Well, I'm looking and I'm not getting exactly what you showed me.
It's on my actual Facebook page.
Well, that's where I'm at, and I've only got 3, but I will.
He said, "Just wondering, Dargan, are you still full?" Yeah.
Oh yeah. See, I have that one over here, but it says Facebook user, so I can't.
Son of a gun! If we'd gone to a restaurant for a meal like that, we'd paid $100 a piece.
Yeah.
Really, truly.
Sure. Bryson, you about have to open up a page like.
Well, I see. It's weird because usually, I'm on yours, and usually that pulls them on up, but I've only got 3 on here. I've got.
You got YouTube on there.
YouTube on here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably should switch out over. And then also Bill Blair's tuned in. He says, "I finally got over on Dargan. Got one over on Dargan." And he also mentioned back in the days going to the races, his dad never had a map. Yeah, he never had a map. How about that?
Yeah, that's what I said.
I guess he knew exactly where he was going.
I guess he knew which way was north, east, south, and west.
Mm-hmm. Must have. He must not have been directionally challenged, right?
He must have known which way the mountains were and which way the ocean was.
Everybody's got their own set of skills. Some people are good at directions, and then some people are good at picking up after themselves and keeping stuff clean, right?
Oh.
I mean, no, she's good at that. I'm not. And see, I'm good at directions. So, I mean, that's a compliment to her.
Well,
right?
she's putting up with you, so.
She does. She puts up with me.
She's putting up with me.
She puts up with me.
56 years. It's been
oh,
that
wow.
way.
Yeah, that's a long time. I don't think we'll ever make 56 years because we're older now. And we've only been together 5, married 6 years. Gosh,
Married
put the shovel
6,
down.
Together how many?
About 10, I think. 15.
Put you on the spot.
16.
Really?
Let's see, 40, 43, 44. No, we haven't been together. We've known each other that long.
Apparently math isn't his greater skill either.
It's okay.
Well, Jane and I met.
Struggled at geology.
We
Me
met
too, yeah.
in,
Geography's really hard.
we met in March.
Yes.
She had the ring in May.
Wow.
We were married in August.
You didn't waste any time.
Yeah.
March, May,
and our
August.
son was born in September.
Well, he told you he kissed her knee and said, "You're mine."
I know, right? That's pretty bold.
Yeah.
Because she didn't get the knee in the mouth.
It was either March or April. But anyway, April, and then she had the ring in May.
Yeah.
We were married in August, and our son was born in September.
Mm. All right.
But that was 2 years later.
I was waiting for the catch on that.
Yes. Yeah. You told me that one.
Was there some divine intervention going on there?
I used to work with new salespeople all over the country, and of course here he is. He's a little nervous. He's a fellow come from down south and up here working and looking over my shoulder and what have you. And then I'd tell them that, and they wouldn't say a word. And then another few minutes, I see it was our son was born 2 years later, and
right.
He said, "Thank goodness." Thank goodness.
Now,
one thing that about the parade and Bill France that is rather comical. Across the way back when they were racing there, all you had was that. Well, it's not scrub oak, or I don't know what they call the little low-growing shrubberies, I call it. But anyway, you had people that would run across the road, across A1A while the cars were running, and before the race started, and all this, they'd slip in and not pay.
Yeah.
Well, Bill would go out there and set fire to that whole area because they didn't have any houses along there then. And he would set fire to it, and then the people would come through trying to slip in. They'd have charcoal all over them, and that's where he'd catch them and make them pay.
Oh, yeah.
So
what about the snakes, though? Bill Blair was talking about that.
I've heard some tales about the rattlesnakes and everything else, and he had several signs up saying, warning, wear rattlesnakes.
Yes, that's what he's saying about the signs there, yeah. That's good stuff.
But Gene Stokes, a friend of mine, that probably, in addition to lightning Epton, who just turned 101, and she was working for Bill France when he had the idea of building Daytona International Speedway. She's been in that ticket office since 1959. But anyway, Gene was he was working with NASCAR at that time, and there were about 15 of them that were invited to come out to the swamp where Bill had laid out the plans for the racetrack. And Gene's probably one of the very few people that still alive that went out there. But and Gene, back in, and this is something that I was talking to, something I worked on for 7 years to get it all together and get the truthful information and all that, was how Curtis Turner got back into NASCAR. See, Curtis and Tim Flock, along with some others, they were kicked out of NASCAR because they were forming, I won't say it was a union, but it was a union in a sense to try to get a little bit better insurance and what have you, and which was a good thing. But France kicked Turner out, and Tim never got reinstated, even though he worked for Charlotte Motor Speedway for years. But anyway, Gene and Clinty Hyatt, Crawfish Kreider, 4 or 5 people from Charlotte got together and formed a thing called the Grand American Racing Association in 1965. And they got, I think it was 11 dirt tracks set up, and the cars would be 3 years old, could not be more than 3 years old, but everything was strictly non-factory backed. It had to be independent with no factory backing whatsoever, and it was all on dirt. And Turner was the person that was going to be the big draw. And Gene flew his own airplane. Well, there were 3 of them that owned it, but Gene, I guess, flew it as much as anybody. Flew Clinty Hyatt, and Clinty was the president of the Grand American Racing Association, up to Charlotte, and had a picture made of Clinty and Curtis Turner. And the thing appeared in the Sumter item, and a couple of days later, it got to Daytona. And France got wind of what was going on, and they had races already scheduled, and it was in 4 states in 11 different tracks. And he had one race in Charleston that Turner was not there, but then they had one at Charlotte at the old Concord Speedway, and they had it advertised. And I've got all the news clippings and what have you of that. And Curtis was there, and the stands were full completely, 1,000% full. And Curtis was one of the first people that had a car radio, a car telephone, and he got a call right before race time that he it was from Bill France, and France said, "If you will promise me that you will not race in this new division, you're reinstated as of right now back into NASCAR."
Oh, wow.
So they had to make the announcement, and Curtis, and he got out of his car and told all of the owners of the new division that he was
back in.
He was back in, and he was going to have to call it quits. And
so he kind of won. He kind of got a good deal on that. I mean, like he won in a way.
Yeah.
Like
well, he won. He won at Rockingham a month later in the. So what was his name? Wallace, Bryant Wallace, won at Concord, and I've got some pictures of the trophy. The trophy was 8'6" tall, and Bryant won in a '63 Ford, And then they had a race in Sumter, and I drove the pace car that night for that race. And a boy built the car in 1 week from Fayetteville and won the race. Jimmy Thompson finished second, but the Thompson brothers, Crawfish Crider, Bubba Into, a whole bunch of the fellows were participating in the Grand American Racing Association. All of them, including Gene Stokes, Clinty Hyatt, and Gene was a NASCAR official, was kicked out of NASCAR, but Curtis Turner was reinstated at the same time. But that's how things worked with the France family back in those days. But anyway, Gene got reinstated, I guess maybe a year and a half later.
Okay.
But it was something that really could have worked.
So you remember last week we were talking to Peggy Flock about the no pensions and things like that the drivers did not get any type of retirement.
None whatsoever.
Yeah. And so she sent me the address of if people wanted to donate to that. It's an old timers race club. Okay. Remember we were talking about how you can make donations. So I had some people asking. And the address is 125 Northeast Drive, Archdale, North Carolina, 27263. And that is to make donations to the medical fund, which basically takes care of the past drivers that are in need of medical, help. So that's Old Timers Race Club, 125 Northeast Drive. It's one word, Northeast. And that's Archdale, North Carolina, 27263. So there you go.
Well, a good example of that right now is Rex White. Rex, the year he won the Grand National Championship, I think he got $3,000 for the point fund. That was it.
That was it. Yeah. Wow.
And he joked about it many times that he'd go through peach orchards and watermelon patches and all, and would stop his car, stop the tow car, and go out there and get him some watermelons. He said that's the way we ate. And,
wow. Hey, let's take a quick break because I know it looks like we're going to run over a little bit, and so we do the station ID and stuff, and we'll be right back. Racing Greets with Hamm and Dargan Watts.
Real Country 550 and 92.9 WAME and W225BD Statesville.
Healthcare is changing in Statesville, but don't worry. At Iredell Health System, we're growing to meet the needs of our community. From our emergency department to maternity to surgery and imaging services and beyond, you can rest assured that when you need healthcare, we'll be here for you. Put your trust in us. You'll be glad you did. Learn more at iredellhealth.org. That's iredellhealth.org.
Are you ready to fly?
I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space.
Well, get ready, because it's almost time for the 47th Annual Carolina Balloon Fest, October 14th, 15th, and 16th at the Statesville Regional Airport. After a couple of years because of the pandemic, we're back! Special shapes, mass ascensions, tethered balloon rides, skydiving, main stage entertainment, the wine and craft beer garden, kids zone and stage. All sorts of great things at the 47th Annual Carolina Balloon Fest. Tickets are on sale now. Go to carolinaballoonfest.com for all the info. Great shopping and dining is just a short drive away in beautiful, historic downtown Newton. Just 20 minutes from Statesville, Newton has so much to offer. Stop by today and visit.
Debbie Lynn's Closet is a unique boutique that offers upcycled, recycled, and new handcrafted items. All of the items at Debbie Lynn's Closet are made by Debbie or other talented area sewists, makers, metalworkers, and weavers. Lots of fun and cute items to choose from. Sling bags, clutches, hats, tumblers, capes, handbags, scrunchies, jewelry, and so much more. Debbie is also happy to create that custom piece just for you. Stop by and check out all of the amazing items at Debbie Lynn's Closet. Open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Located at 121 North College Avenue in beautiful downtown Newton.
Take some time to shop and dine and discover Newton today.
550 and 92.9 Real Country WAME.
And we are back to Racing Roots with Hamm, and we have Dargan Watts in with us this evening, and Miss Jane actually joined us too, and that was very nice of her to come over and hang out with us. Thanks for doing that, because you had.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Well, I guess the next time we'll see y'all will be down in Daytona, I'm assuming.
On February 11th.
Or at Ponce Inlet.
February 11th. Yes.
February 11th will be the historic North Turns Racing Legends Beach Parade. Historic
well,
North
you're
Turn
close.
Legends.
You're close.
Yeah, it's a lot of words to throw in there. Historic
the Beach Road Course Parade.
Road Course Parade. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to throw in it.
And the Legends part. What?
I was going to say, I think you're trying to get us to stay 2 weeks. Is that right?
2 weeks, yeah.
Wow.
Well, there's plenty to do down there. It's not only the parade, but there are the museum there at Daytona is fantastic.
Sure.
It's you've got a lot of old. You got cars, motorcycles, airplanes, boats. Everything with speed is in that, and it's the old. What was Daytona 1? And the thing was in Michigan for a number of years. They have a humongous, a lot more prestigious than the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and because they bring in your Formula One people and Indianapolis people and NASCAR and all that, and have the induction ceremony once a year. But anyway, the people who own the building up in Michigan decided that they didn't want to lease it anymore, so they brought it down, and the building there at Daytona was just being used as a warehouse, and so.
Has weather ever been a factor for this?
Is what?
In February, weather?
I don't like to hear the name weather.
Yeah.
We did have rain in 2019. We had some rain, but it didn't stop it.
Okay.
It was just that was the year that Vicky rode with me, and I'm holding the umbrella, and the wind was blowing the umbrella all over the place and all. But
sure.
That's the only time that we've had, because and we don't always have 80-degree weather like we had this year either, because they had another parade on Monday by one of the local clubs, and and it was about 30 degrees.
Oh my!
And one of the cars that comes to our parade every year was in the parade and videotaped it like you did. Mm-hmm. And I counted 80 people from the start, to the finish, and a lot of the people that were on the beach were out looking at the ocean. They weren't looking at what was coming by.
I played the video before.
It was cold.
Oh yeah, it sounds like it. I played the video before the show. If you tuned in before the show actually started, you'd see our video of us riding around in that car. And I looked at it last night, and I noticed that it said 2020 was the date. So I think I messed up there.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I was like, what? You knucklehead. 2022 is when that was. So if y'all saw that video, I apologize.
Well, this thing has been really a pleasure to be involved in. I just really and truly, I've been trying for the last 3 years to phase back, and it just hasn't happened. And it's just like Bill and Phil up in Mount Airy. They know what it's all about. That to have something successful, and really that's what makes it the old. I guess the old clock tick is to see something that you can be proud of, and I am very proud of what had been accomplished with the parade at Ponce Inlet, and I'm equally, because we got as far as Rock Hill in South Carolina twice for the other two Mount Airy deals, and we just And I'll say hello to Clint tonight. I know Clint Carpenter, James' brother's listening, and first time he's been on. But anyway, we turned around and go back to Ocala instead of going to Mount Airy. And this time I said, Bill, we will be there. And but we tried to help as much as we could, and getting some publicity out and all for it. And hopefully it helped a little bit. But I'm just, you can't control the weather. If it rains, that's it's in God's hand.
Right,
and,
for sure.
From my understanding, it rains every day in Florida, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's one of the things we got to meet Bill Blair down there for the first time, and that was, I guess you could say that's like a highlight of our lives to meet him and get to know him. And
as I told you, the really with this, knowing that Bill was there, and knowing the job that he can do to the people. Bill can talk to anybody about anything.
Yep.
And the night that he was on the first time, and I typed it in to ask Bill about his flying.
Oh yeah,
and coming out of the barn, and I
funny.
can see that because we had the exact same kind of barn that that Bill was talking about. And you get to the back of the barn and take off running, and seeing him with that sheet.
Oh, I know, that's
going to
funny.
fly to the ground and go nose first.
He backed up and then took off and jumped out there.
It was just a joy to see the two of you and to see you joining in and knowing. Knowing well, your grandfather being involved in racing with the Buddy Schumann car and building the engine for that, it fell right into place because Bill and I talked about that car many times, and also with Buddy Schumann and all, and then all of a sudden, bap, here you are, and here's a relative, so. And the Kaiser brothers, they consider you part of the family.
Oh,
they
nice.
really do because of your grandfather. So
thank you.
But
talking about Willie Thompson.
Yep.
By the way, Ken Thompson is tuned in.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, Ken.
Hope y'all had a good time in Pigeon Forge. We missed you.
Yeah, he's a world traveler now. He went to Hawaii, and then now he just went to Pigeon Forge.
They go every year to Pigeon Forge.
Yeah, the big car show. And he hauled his motorcycle.
Holy cow, I've never seen so many cars in my life as they got up there this week.
Yeah, he hauled his motorcycle after too, one of his Harleys.
Yeah, one of the two.
Very nice.
Very good.
Hope he got to ride around. Yeah.
We measured that thing last week.
At Pigeon
and
Forge?
it was 3.1 miles of cars on each side of the street.
Oh,
and then they had parking lots that were full. So I would say probably, close to 4,000 cars, antique cars. We came out of the comedy barn, and Jane made the comment to a fella that had a John Deere green Chevrolet pickup, and he had a for sale sign on it, and he had to raise the hood, and that son of a gun had a Caterpillar diesel engine.
Oh.
Sitting sideways.
No way.
In the car.
Oh, man.
That is awesome.
Wow.
Oh, and that gives me ideas.
Oh, man, yeah. That's a new idea for Hamm's Machine Shop right there.
Yes, absolutely is a new idea for me. Yeah.
But it was a funny thing to see that big engine under that hood sitting sideways.
That would really kind of shock you. You know, you open the hood and you're not expecting to see that at all. That's actually
here's
pretty
the board instead of
Yeah.
a carburetor on top. And
So,
the board.
you know, you see all these old tractors and old trucks sitting out in fields. I just need to go grab a couple of them.
There you go.
And put them.
I've got one on my road, actually. An old tractor. It's been sitting there for several years now. It's got kudzu all over it and everything. I'm not sure what's wrong with it, but it's not a really old tractor, but it's a big one. So,
Well, the
I
one
can hook
picture
you up
I've
there.
got on online, one of the cars that comes down to the Ponce Inlet, he brings it from either West Virginia. I think it's West Virginia. But he and his uncle are cutting the tree out of the trunk.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've seen those.
Ricky showed us a picture of, and I've got that on Facebook too, his first race car. actually had a tree growing up through the gear shift in the floorboard.
Wow.
And that's the car that he won. I don't know how many races, but he won a whole bunch of races at Cherokee Speedway.
Okay.
And
I'm going to read this right quick. Going back to the Cox. Michael Klein had said, I remember Alan Powell driving Preacher Cox's car. Might have been one of the last ones to do so.
And Alan who?
Alan Powell driving a Preacher Cox's car.
It's probably one of the Mutt Powell family. So, yeah, they were very close and from Hemingway. So.
Okay. So where do you live now? Down in Ocala, is that right?
Ocala, Florida.
Yeah.
Ocala, Florida. They just had a thing in the paper yesterday that I-4, and this is one reason that I hung it up at Sumter Speedway. I'd gone up for a wedding, a friend of ours, and they had, I think, practice maybe. I don't know whether it was a race or a practice at Sumter, and I hadn't been on the Sumter Speedway property in 19 years, and got talking to the owner, and well, he did not own it at that time. He leased the property, but a couple of years later he bought it. But anyway, we drove that 425 miles one way every. 850 miles round trip every week, and it just got old. And we were within 45 minutes of being home one night, and we saw a bunch of red lights on I-4 outside of Orlando. And I said to Jane, I said, something bad, and it was. This fellow didn't like the way a fellow was driving, so he just. The man was in a Suburban on the outside lane, and he just hit this Jeep Cherokee, pushed him across the median into the line of traffic on the other side, and a box truck just went through both of them. And I've got pictures of the two vehicles, and altogether, that wreck caused 5 lives to be lost right there, and we sat there for 4.5 hours, and that's where we made up our mind that it was time to hang it up as far as making that long trip every week. And,
the straw that broke the camel's back. Yeah, for sure.
But we would come in and be just so tired that shoot, I'd have the shakes. I really would.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Because you get on 95 and then you get on I-4, and it was just too much.
Mm-hmm. Tracy, you got a question there?
Do I? Oh, okay. Ask Dargan if he crosses paths with Big Daddy Don Gartless any down in Ocala.
Not in. I haven't seen Don probably in. His shop is about 9 miles from us, because he lives in another town. About 15, 20 miles from his shop. But the last time that we talked to Don was at a function where I had nominated him, and he was selected as the pioneer in racing for the old Back to the Roots deal, and sort of a club deal. And he and his wife sat with us, and Don, you don't talk to him on the phone too much. He's had those engines the sound of the engines coming through his ears, so he's very, very hard of hearing, and talking to him on the phone is almost impossible. But he's still looking for 300 miles an hour in an electric car.
Oh wow! Okay, I'd say that would be definitely doable.
But Don is smart. He is very smart, and one of his people that he had so many dealings with when he was coming up was Smokey Eunuch.
Okay.
You never think about that.
No,
but,
did not.
And Smokey Eunuch actually helped with the motorcycle. See, Paul Goldsmith won two motorcycle races on the beach.
Okay. Yeah.
And Smokey Eunuch was part of that, part of the tuning of that motorcycle that at Goldsmith, and then of course Goldsmith won the 1958, the last race they had on the beach in a unit car. So.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so if people want to contact you, because you have so many different Facebook pages, what do you have, like 10 pages or something?
Yeah.
So do you want to list any of them that you want people to follow?
Well, they start out with Auto Racing Legends.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we have number one, Auto Racing Legends number 2
okay,
is Auto Racing Legends original is full.
Okay.
And I didn't know this until all of a sudden pictures started disappearing.
Right.
And I
you started another page to put
so
those
we started
on.
number 2.
Yeah.
And then number 3.
Yeah.
And then number 4, number 5, and number 6.
Yeah.
And all of those are Auto Racing Legends, and then the Roman numerals for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
And then we have the historic North Turn Parade, and that's just Daytona only, from back in the early, from the word go, back in the in the 40s. Well, actually in the 30s.
Right.
And then we have the one that I can't even remember the name.
That's fine.
Never can. Was it parades? Well, the one that has mainly just it does have parades, banquets, and vintage cars is what that one is.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that takes care of that one, and then of course the Cox, the old that's closed, but people can still see it, and that's a salute to the Marion Cox family, and which I'm just proud to be able to do that and single that family out, because it's just, I don't care where you go, you can find people that know Marion Cox.
Yeah.
And have heard of him.
But
and the family.
If you have a question for Dargan, you can put the question on here after the video is after we wrap it up, and then I'll make sure that he gets to see what your question is and gets it answered for you. And also you can do a search Dargan Watts on Facebook and find him there too. And but thank you so much for coming up and hanging out with us.
Well, it has been a pleasure, sir.
Time has flown by.
Absolutely.
It's already
really
9 o'clock.
Yes.
2-hour show. Yeah.
You know, the first night you said about 15 minutes, and we went an hour that night just on the phone. But
yes, I know. I'm telling you what. Whenever we're talking about the stuff that we love to talk about, the time goes by so quick.
Well, I hope that we that they got to know us a little better and finally got Jane on here. She's
documented.
She's still over. Look,
right.
She'll be signing autograph tomorrow.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
She's
absolutely.
the kind of person that does that. And did you see me on the David Hamm show last night? And
yeah, that's all right.
I was there.
That's right. Did you see me? And they'll be saying, "Yes, I want your autograph." Right? Okay.
Captured forever.
Yes. All right. You got anything, Bryson?
I do not. I just want to say it's been great, Dargan, to finally meet you. You know, we've known you, through the Facebook and everything for a long time. So it's great to have you in here, and I consider it a great privilege to be here every Monday, and especially today.
You saying that, and it's something I told you. You got a good future.
I do appreciate
with
that.
That voice you've got.
Thank you very much.
The looks is not too good. But
well, I know that. That's why I'm on the radio and not TV. So, yeah.
But the voice can, you can charm people with the voice.
Well, thank you very much.
No matter how bad you look.
Well, thank you very much.
We'll have to bring him down to Daytona. Maybe he can ride down. Maybe his dad will bring him down there.
Yeah, we need to come down there. I really, last year I didn't really, know enough in advance, I guess, to make a point to come down there. But I've never been to Daytona, period, for anything. So if my first trip to Daytona is to the beach, that's, the North Turn, that would be really special. So, yeah, we'll have to make a point to do that. Hopefully we can make it.
Well, there are more things to do than the parade. And, you got things going on all over town.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's right around the time.
For a couple of weeks. And,
yeah.
All right.
But, we'd love to see you. Love to see you. Love
I'd
to
love-
have you.
All right.
Hopefully we'll make it.
Might even put you in the trunk of one of the cars.
Hey, that would be good. I'd
the
love to
trunk.
ride in the truck. Yes.
You can. Yes.
Yes, or I can ride passenger like Jocko Flacco.
You
pull
can- there you go.
check the tire wear there with the hatch there.
Yeah, I think I saw the tire wear on the car we were in.
Oh yeah.
Feels
Yeah,
like it was,
you
feels
saw
like
everything.
It was open. It was very open.
Oh, it was. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. 41. They wasn't exactly.
I did not realize that car didn't have anything. I mean, nothing.
It didn't have seats.
No, I mean.
I sat on a pillow.
Yeah, you should have brought her something.
And I
guess.
remember back in the early days, tin roofs. That was your floorboard, and that only covered right to the driver, and that was it.
All right.
It was a memory.
End on that.
And that was it. Yes. All right. Well, thank y'all for coming up, Jane and Dargan, for riding all the way up here from Ocala to be with us.
Yes.
And have a safe trip home tonight.
We've been
I'm
honored.
just kidding. I think you're going to go hang out with the Blair family.
Yeah,
Bill
we're
and
going
Sheila.
up there tomorrow, and
Yes.
we're not going to stay up there that long because we're going to rest up and try to make it all the way back to Ocala on Wednesday. And that's what we got planned.
All right.
But who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
We'll have a safe trip.
Jane changes her mind so often that.
If y'all get offered
that what it
another
is?
steak dinner, you might change your mind.
Holy cow!
Yeah. I guess we'll see you next time you come in. Come up here and see us anytime.
Yeah, we'd love it. We just sat in here and watched it.
Yeah.
We just enjoy Monday nights. It's a set thing.
Good.
To see you,
Yeah.
all of you.
Awesome.
you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. And thanks everybody for tuning in on our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, and y'all hit that thumbs up if you like the show. And I'm sure you didn't not like it, so that's good. Thanks for tuning in. James, also, I wanted to say hey to you. He's one of our new friends we met up at the Mount Airy Moonshiners and Racers Reunion, and he's up in Pennsylvania, so get your friends up there watching. Thank y'all so much. We'll see you next Monday. We have, let's see, who do we have next Monday, Tracy?
Don't ask her.
That's
It's up
right.
to
You're
you.
the schedule man.
No, we have Gene Overcash.
Yes.
I did a little test for her there. Yeah, Gene Overcash, and what was the other name on there, Bryson?
Dargan Watts, and you don't have.
Oh,
after that's today and next Monday, and then after that we don't have it on the.
Oh, we don't have Gene Overcash
list.
on there? Are you
well,
sure?
Gene Overcash is on there. That's the 26th.
That's what I'm wondering. It's Gene Overcash and Veronica Cordell.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, read what their titles are.
Yes, Gene Overcash, Motorsports Museum Director, and Veronica Cordell, who is the Director of the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame Museum, and they are both located in Kannapolis, North Carolina. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you meant the next week, and I'm sitting here thinking we don't have anything written down for that next week.
Yeah,
for that's this month.
We'll get into October next at the end of this month. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Very good.
That'll
Thank
be
you.
very good. Absolutely.
All right, y'all have a great week, and we'll see you next Monday on Racing Roots with Hamm. Good night.
Real Country 550 and 92.9 WAME Statesville. Real Country.